Okay. Good evening, everybody. So this is a webinar on Introduction to Internet of Things, organized by Scholar IT Solutions. So a little bit about the company Scholar IT Solutions before we begin. Scholar IT Solutions is an IT service provider, and we have professionals with technical expertise in multiple domains, and we serve clients all over the US. It's one of the best companies to work in the US. If you want to know more about the organizer Scholar IT Solutions, you can follow us in the social networks like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are everywhere, and we regularly organize webinars to educate people, give some career guidance, a lot of useful information which you don't find on the internet even. So you can do all that. And a little bit about me: I'm a freelance consultant and trainer. I'm an expert in modern technologies, and my main job is actually doing consulting, working as a consulting specialist for a lot of companies. And people hire me to get insights about modern technology, on which one should be the proper thing: digital transformation, business development, and HR recruitment, etc. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. So coming back to the main topic of today, Internet of Things. So what is Internet of Things? The first thing is this is a clubbing of multiple fields. So unlike other things, like when you study about computer science or create something creative like design, or something like what do you say, electronics or mechatronics or anything like that. So you don't usually have multiple fields coming together very often. Internet of Things is one thing like that, where hardware is used, software is used, internet, cloud, everything is used. So it's like a clubbing of multiple things coming together. So to explain what Internet Things is, the simplest thing is to say everything is connected. So we live in a connected world. Like, you're able to attend this meeting because you're connected to this online platform GoToMeeting, and through that you're attending this meeting. So in the future, everything is going to be connected to the internet, one way or the other. So Internet of Things plays a really important role in this. So this enables every single device, every single person, or every single point where you can actually get some information or insights to be connected to the internet, where everything is organized and efficiently used. So I don't think people can understand what I've said right now, because it's kind of vague at this point, but you'll understand in the further slides what I've said. So connection points. The first way to connect to the internet is using Wi-Fi. So any modern computer or laptop or phone, everything has a Wi-Fi chip. And Wi-Fi chips enable us to connect to the internet using an IP address or other network protocols. So network itself is like a huge field. So basically we connect to the network through Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi chips have become incredibly cheap. Like about 10 years back, Wi-Fi chips were like a luxury. Not everybody could have Wi-Fi or anything like that. But now Wi-Fi has become a commonplace. The routers or the bill plans or anything. I remember paying like 5,000 for internet connections. Now we can get internet connection even 500 rupees. So the thing is, it's become very accessible, and Wi-Fi chips have become really cheap. And the cheaper Wi-Fi chips are not that performant. Like, you can't really have advanced features of connectivity using cheaper Wi-Fi chips. But for the purpose of IoT itself, it's very useful. You can get a Wi-Fi chip as cheap as 300 to 250 rupees, like that. So what it essentially does is you can just put this Wi-Fi chip inside any kind of device, and it will become connected to you can connect it to the internet. Let's just say you have an old remote control toy. What you can do is you can connect the circuitry to this Wi-Fi chip, and then using that you can connect to the internet. So once you can connect to the internet, you can use the data sent from the remote car itself to the internet, where you can control it using a web page or some kind of remote or anything. So you can even connect it to your phone. So basically what you're doing is you're converting an ordinary remote car into an internet car, where you can control it using the internet. If you can understand that, you understood Internet of Things entirely. So this is the basic concept behind Internet of Things. Like this, every single device can be connected to the internet, like whether it's your car or your like microwave oven or like your air conditioner, your tube light, everything can be connected to the internet. Recently, like about 5 years back, IoT bulbs were the talk of the town. Everybody was using smart bulbs. So the word smart is being added to everything. Smart bulbs, smart cars, self-driving cars, and smart automation, everything. So in the future, everything will be connected to the internet and controlled by the internet. And this is where it gets tricky. The first slide I showed you was smart homes. Yeah, smart homes as well. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the slides. Yeah. And feel free to interrupt me and ask me like, any kind of questions or anything related to what I'm talking. I'll be really happy to answer. Yeah. So the thing is, like the first slide I showed you, some kind of electronic device, and electronics itself is a whole other category of which a field and category which has to be studied separately and everything. And in that, networking comes in when you're connecting that electronic device into the internet. So networking itself is an ocean. It's a vast topic where network protocols, TCP, IP, everything is there. And apart from that, the kind of thing is like you need to know a programming language to actually do all these things in Internet of Things. There are other methods, but they're not as efficient. So the different kind of programming languages required here are listed here. C, C++, Java for constrained devices. Constrained devices are in the devices which don't move around. Yeah, and the gateway and edge nodes. Edge nodes are the things like sensors or any kind of, like I told the previous slide, we saw a small device which is a Wi-Fi chip. Those kind of things use Java, Python, C++, C, and everything like that. And in the cloud itself, we have other kind of like logic of, like, for example, let's just say how this car has to be controlled or how this home has to be controlled or anything. That kind of logic is there in the IoT clouds. For that, you use Java, JavaScript, Python, PHP, usual kind of web development languages. C is a very important language in here. If you really need to know the concept of C, because C is incredibly fast, it's light. So because of that reason alone, it's used vastly in embedded devices, and that same goes for IoT as well, because devices don't have that, small chips and devices don't have that much of a memory. So the programs which we write for them have to be like very, very small. Only then they'll have like, proper like, speed and execution and everything like that. You can't, the size which we have in our mobile phones is like GB, 10 GB, 1 GB like that. But small chips have like only KB, 1 KB or 2 KB of information. So whatever programs we write in that should be like, fitting inside that size. And the cloud platforms. This is the third thing. First, the device, and then you use programming languages and the network to access to the internet, and then you have the cloud. So the cloud itself is like, a vast topic alone. In terms of IoT alone, the cloud is used to store information about whatever the information, the chips or any kind of the user information, the authentication information, your usernames, password, everything is stored in the cloud. These are some of the cloud services which offer like cloud gateways for IoT devices to connect to the internet. And these are quite famous. AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure are like very famous. All of them, like almost every modern technology has that. Apart from that, Salesforce and Oracle and Watson, IBM Watson, everybody has like IoT device gateways and cloud services as well. Apart from this, there's lots of open source cloud as well, where you can actually store your own cloud. If you don't trust these people, or if your organization requires a highly secure network or something, you can even host your own cloud where you can store all the data which is sent by your Wi-Fi chips and everything. I'll tell you more about each and how the Wi-Fi chips and everything works together to make the IoT ecosystem work in the following slides. Okay, so this is how IoT works. So first you have devices, and then IoT gateways and data systems. So first, what devices does is like your phone, your monitor, your camera, or any kind of, like, it could be a sensor. Like, for example, let's just say you have a kitchen, you have a gas sensor, you have a smoke sensor, and you have like a fire sensor or any kind of thing like that. So what happens is, like, let's just say we build an IoT system where we find out kitchen fires before they happen. So what we do is we have a smoke sensor, gas sensor, and fire detector. We all have that installed in the places where it's more likely to catch fire. So what happens is when the sensors detect a value of smoke or fire beyond the normal level, they immediately send a signal through the IoT gateway, which is a Wi-Fi router or any kind of centralized gateway, and into the cloud. So what happens is this goes into the data systems. So the data systems have the logic. What happens when this like the fire or smoke levels increase too much? So that they send the information back. Either raise a warning, like say that warn the user that the smoke levels or any kind of levels are high, so you have to take some action, or you can actually have it automated. So that is how industrial automation works. So you can have it automated. Let's just say that the smoke threshold or fire threshold goes beyond the limit. You spray a can of water, or you spray a can of fire extinguisher automatically using another device. So that's how you deal with the situation. So the devices itself can be countless. Cars have like sensors, equipped to deal with all these kind of things. For example, you can see that when you're overspeeding or something, it goes to the red. And sometimes when the modern cars and everything, when there's a fault or something, the lights indicate that there's a fault. And when you have low fuel or something like that, all the indicators go on low fuel, warning you, saying like the fuel is low, do something. Same thing goes for every single thing here. Like even these CCTV cameras where you have to monitoring theft or anything like that, they have computer vision now. So they can detect any kind of activity. So like even if a cat runs around, you can find out, and the cloud, you can register that the cat ran away from this wall to that wall. So when it's a small object, okay, it's just a cat or a dog or a mouse. But when the object is very big or something like that, it might be a person, it might be a thief. So set an alarm or raise a warning to the user or do something about it, like, close the doors or do something like that. So you can design advanced systems like that. The possibilities and the amazing things that you can do that in IoT, it's endless. Right now, there's a bunch of key fields which use IoT, but eventually in the future, about 10, 15 years from now, everything will be using IoT. The amount of scope in this industry alone, it's like endless as for now, because everything in the future is going to be digital, and this is just the start. Okay, starting with the most basic and non-essential need, although it could be really productive. So home automation. So inside our houses, like we have a lot of devices, and most of the time, like if you go into a room, you're turning on the fan, you're turning on the AC, you're turning on the fridge, you're turning on lights, everything like that. But these days we have everything: smart lights, smart things, Alexas, everything like that. And also the increasing the number of devices also increases the complexity in the scenario. And also the more and more we need security and efficient to homes like that. Once you go beyond a level or something, you don't want to do the basic stuff like by yourself. For example, turning on the lights every day at 6 o'clock, you're turning on the lights. You don't want to keep doing that every single day. Once you go beyond a level, like you have work, you have other things to do, instead of turning on the lights exactly at 10 o'clock, or you might forget it. Sometimes you're working or something like that, you forget to turn off the lights or like that. Lights might be something like very simple, like it'll be dark and you can turn it on anytime. And sometimes you might, in our conditions, the air conditioner takes about half an hour to cool down the room. And when you are like tired from work or anything like that, you come home and you come home and into a hot room. So what you can do is, like, if you have IoT enabled into your air conditioner, you can connect the air conditioner to the internet. And while you're on the car traveling itself, half an hour before you reach the home, you can make your room pre-cooled. So when you go in, it's entirely cooled and no waste of energy either. You'll just be like, be more efficient in working, and it'll actually help you relax more. Yeah. And then we have video cameras, which like CCTV cameras or IR cameras, which actually monitor theft. Like these days, people don't spend that much time inside their house. They're in the office, their kids are going to school or something. This leaves the house vulnerable for threats. And almost everywhere, CCTV cameras are there. But CCTV cameras only help you after the theft is made. Normal CCTV camera, what you can do is, when somebody steals or somebody breaks into your house, only after they've escaped, you can find out somebody has done like that, and then give the evidence to the police. But when you have IoT enabled systems, they can do something even while the thing is happening. Let's just say somebody breaks in, you get a warning. Maybe you're in the next street or nearby. You can quickly rush to your home and do something, or you can quickly call the police, or they can automatically call the police even, depending on how advanced you can design your systems. So you can stop a theft without and not have evidence alone after the theft is gone. From something as simple as a light switch, which turns on and turns off at 6 o'clock exactly, you can have advanced systems. Even the light switch has like so much innovation. Like 6 o'clock, sometime the lights might not be required. In summers or something like that, 6 o'clock is very bright. But in winters, even 5:30 is very dull. So you can put another logic using an if statement or any kind of conditions that in summers you can turn on the lights at 6:45 instead of 6 o'clock. And in winters, you can turn on the lights at 5:45 instead of 6 o'clock. So you can set up all these custom conditions, and this helps in energy efficiency. You're saving energy. You're not using it unnecessarily. So even the smallest things help us, do efficiently, because energy is limited. The amount of people using internet and everything like that is increased, and the amount of resource we have is limited. So we have to save and use them efficiently. Like I told with the earlier example about the gas, you can have smoke sensors and gas leak sensors, and you can save a lot of the entire house might burn down. That is one of the important applications in home automation. Guessing if some kind of device is malfunctioning and causing a large fire. There are so many situations where explosions, fires, and everything has happened in buildings where poor energy management and fire proof have not been properly implemented. Apart from that, windows can automatically close when rain comes in and open when the light is very low, and they can be automated in other ways as well. Like, when you come inside the room, the windows have to be open or close or anything like that, depends on that. And you have a master panel where you can access all these things. When you want to manually switch on the lights for certain rooms, or manually you want to change certain things about your, like for example, let's just say you want to dim down the lights when you're watching a movie or something like that. Simple quality of life things like that, or can also be added. This is a list of common things which are used in home automation. The amount of things you can do in home automation is a lot. You can even automate the curtains to control how much light is coming inside, and you can automate the pipes to be efficiently delivering all these water and not wasting. There's a lot of things you can do. These kind of things are usually implemented in high-end hotels or office rooms. These days, everybody gets access to these through the world of home automation. Agriculture is one of the most important parts of IoT, because efficiency is required here more than everything. So many people do not have access to food. People in the cities are not aware of that, but food itself is not that efficiently grown these days. And efficiency is very important because the amount of population growth and the amount of people you have to feed, and our systems, most of the agriculture systems are using traditional systems which are not really efficient at doing things, and they also involved a lot of manual labor. So when you're involving a lot of manual labor and everything like that, you're wasting a lot of time, and also you have to train people to do all those things, and people have limits. For example, they after working 7 or 8 hours, they get tired, so they have to recharge and everything like that. But machines do not really have that limit. They have to be maintained and everything. They have to be checked, and maintenance and cleaning has to be done. But still, they are much more efficient compared to all these human workers. And soon, human workers won't be working in all these things at all. 1 second, I just got a call. Let me just. Yeah, I'm back. So so these in 1 second. So robots and IoT systems have been widely used in the foreign countries for doing a lot of mundane tasks which are usually done by people. For example, there is a sensor called soil moisture sensor, which can give information about how much moisture is there in the soil itself. So the thing is, we can use that to measure how much moisture the soil is, and based on that, you can water the plants, saving water. Like resources itself, water is a very, very scarce resource. If you don't come from a place where there is no river, pond, or anything like that, which is dependent only on rainfall itself, you might know that how much water itself is there. Like for example, the city I come from here, water scarcity is a usual thing in summer. The summer, the city dries up and there is literally no water. So water has to be used efficiently. Most of the water used inside agriculture is not really used efficiently in traditional methods. People just learn how much water it requires and randomly use it. That is a very inefficient way to use water. Sometimes because of the temperature changes of the climate, the soil might already have water enough to satisfy the requirements of the plants, but still you'll be watering them, and that is wasting a lot of money. I mean, that is wasting a lot of water. So this is where IoT comes in. So we can control robots. We can remove weed by using cutters. Unwanted plants take the resources up and make this plants not grow well, because the weeds actually grow really fast and they take up a lot of energy, and that is required for the plants to grow. Machines can actually do a lot of work automatically. They can detect, using computer vision, they can differentiate between the actual plant and the weed, and they can only cut the weed and not the plants. These kind of technology are already used in the Western countries, and countries like India and other growing and developing countries have not entirely used these in farming. Almost 90% of the farming activities can be entirely automated using robotics and IoT alone. And also the climate changes and climate information from the internet can efficiently help, on detecting rain or anything like that, and actually taking the preventive measures so the rain or any other climate changes do not affect the crops. Like too much of sun or heat or all those things can be you can find that out earlier and react to that, so you can efficiently grow the crops so they don't dry up or burn up. And there is a lot of other things as well. Every time the yield and everything is noted, all this data is stored in the cloud. So for example, 1 acre of land and you're growing a lot of crops, and each and every time you're getting better at it or you're getting worse at it, everything will be stored in the cloud. So you can use that data to analyze and see where the mistake is happening, how you can improve this process, and how you can efficiently or better grow these plants. And that helps. So every time this data and everything is stored in the cloud and everything, that helps in efficiently improving the process. Humans learn the same way. Every time they make a mistake, they learn. Computers are the same. But in that, we need some kind of thing like data science. You have to understand all those data. You find out why you're making mistakes, why the produce is very low, or why the crops are not efficiently growing. That data is very, very useful. Self-driving cars and and even electric cars. So electric cars are kind of simpler compared to diesel cars, and they are almost almost here in the Western countries. A lot of people are buying electric cars, and the electric car range is the only thing that's keeping it from growing massive. In the next 10 years, after 2025, almost all the main manufacturers who are producing diesel and petrol engine cars will stop production. After 2025, all companies will be focusing only on electric cars. Electric cars are very simple, but they come with a wide variety of gadgets. So in electric cars, compared to the conventional cars, where if you run out of fuel, you'll find a fueling station nearby. But electric cars don't work like that. You have to sit and recharge, and everything else is not that fast. So you have to use the energy efficiently, and that is one part where IoT comes in. First, you have to use the electric energy which is available inside the car efficiently. So to use that, you need data from the sensors on when to use the lights and when to use more power or when to use less power, or how to conserve energy. All these sensors send information to the internet and get insights on how to use that energy efficiently, so the electric car doesn't run out of the range. And also, let's just say modern cars, electric cars come with this warning where and also information showing the nearest charging station. So for example, let's just say the nearest charging station is 15 kilometers away, but your car can only go 10 kilometers. So it will give you a warning. The nearest electric charging station is 15 kilometers and the car is only having charge enough to go for 10 kilometers. So do something. So either you do something or I'll send information to the company, and the company will do something about roadside assistance or anything like that. And also, when driving, a lot of other data is generated as well, depending on your driving style. Everybody drives very differently. Some people, they put too much of throttle and the other people don't. Everybody have their own style of driving. So based on the driving, it will collect data about you and store it in the cloud. This can be useful in multiple ways. If somebody else is driving, maybe you can set it like, if somebody else is driving, give me a warning. Maybe somebody stole the car. When the driving style itself is different, the computer will find out that this person doesn't drive like this. So the other person must be either one of their friends or family or a thief. So it can ask you a notification. It's like, did you give your car to somebody else? Or like, did they, like, or they are from your family? If it's from your family, yeah, just allow them to do that. And sometimes you can also set like range limitations. For example, if your car goes beyond this limit, you get a warning. So this can be used to, like, give kids like limits, like, if don't go out of the city, don't go to dangerous places. So if the kids are doing something bad with your car, like, kids as in teenagers, 17, 8-year-olds, if they're like doing something with the car or something, you'll get a warning and prevent that from happening earlier. And apart from that, diagnostics. So whenever your car is under fault, even if you don't find it, for example, sometimes in the car we have some kind of issues with the motor or brakes or anything, but unless something happens, we won't find out that there is an issue. But diagnostic these days using IoT can actually do that. Before that the problem becomes really worse, it will detect it as early as possible and send information to the company, and the company processes that and sends information to you saying that there is a problem in your car, please come to the service center nearby. So even if you don't find out the problem itself, the car itself will automatically do that. That is like, this is just a few of all the applications going on. And the self-driving cars itself, self-driving cars itself use a lot of sensors, and all these sensors send countless amounts of data to the internet, to the cloud, where they are like, analyzed to find out which is the best way to drive around this location. And as usual, IoT enabled cars are really hard to steal, because any kind of information easily gets updated in the internet, and you can find out even the smallest amount of like, for example, you drive from a house to the office every day, and one day you start at the house but you don't reach the office on time. And that, if the system is designed well enough, it can send a warning to your family saying like, this person started at 9 o'clock, it's been like 12 o'clock and he's still not reached the office. So the amount of possibilities using IoT enabled cars is like limitless. It could be, the data from that could be useful for the consumer as well as the manufacturer. As a manufacturer, you can use a lot of these data to improve your product. For example, let's just say one sensor has failed in like about 1,000 there are 1,000 customers, and all of them, this one sensor failed within 1 month. So that means you've been using faulty sensors, and you have to find out that mistake and rectify it before it becomes too much. So that is one of the ways the manufacturer or people who actually implement the IoT systems can benefit from this as well. They can find out the mistakes they've made, they can make their products efficient from the data they've got, and there's a lot more opportunities as well. Industrial automation. I don't think most of these people know, unless they are from the background of industrial, unless people who are working in the industry or industrial sector or anything like that. Most people don't know that even in this age, almost most of the works are done by machines, and most of the works do not, actually require human intervention at all. Welding, like fastening the bolts, almost everything is done by machines. So when machines take over, somebody has to monitor them, and it cannot be humans all the time, because the amount of machines which are there are numerous. You can't assign a human to every machine to monitor them. And also, like, although like a little bit of human intervention is required, the amount of humans can be reduced vastly by just like putting up IoT systems everywhere. So for example, let's just say this plant is like, emitting a lot of chemical fumes, which is fine for machines, but you can't put a human inside there. But even there, the fumes have to be properly disposed. So if they lead a threshold limit, if they go beyond a limit, it could be harmful for machines and humans, and sometimes it can cause a lot of fires as well. So all these things have to be like, monitored. The main the main application of IoT in industry is monitoring than anything else, because industrial sector is where most accidents happen, and the most dangerous of machines, heavy machineries, normal machineries, robots, welders, high pressure, high temperature, all kinds of dangerous equipment are there in industrial. And almost everything has to be monitored before it becomes too much. A small fire can destroy an entire industry. An entire factory might go like in fire. So monitoring is the main part where industrial automation is happening. Most of these machines are like, have these programs inside them to like, to do the tasks which they are assigned to, but they don't have any kind of environmental awareness. For example, like that, let's just say the operation has to be done at this temperature, but the machine doesn't know that this temperature is there or not. That's why you have to install like, temperature control systems to monitor all those things, and send, like, in case there is some kind of like, there are 10 sectors in the industry, I mean the factory, and sector wise everywhere these systems are installed. So a human with a tablet or any kind of device can monitor all these things, and anytime there is some kind of problem or something like that, a human is like, informed that problem happens earlier. Or and like I said in the previous examples, it can either go to a human or a disaster management system, like automatically release water or automatically remove, they open the air vents so the harmful air can escape. So it can be automated like that as well. So IoT helps in monitoring, automation, and also efficiency. Like almost every industry, this is all the three things it does. It helps in monitoring your house, it helps in monitoring your cars, it helps in monitoring industrial applications and your farms. And apart from that, it also improves all these fields by sending all this quality data into the cloud, where you can view them from anywhere. Since the data cloud is accessible everywhere, even if you are there in some other country, you can monitor what's going on in your factory using the cloud. Healthcare. So this healthcare in IoT is actually like moving very slow compared to the other fields, but in future it will be a very, very vast field. Main things about healthcare is, like, if you see ICUs, intensive care units, or patients, everybody has to be monitored. And this is what IoT does best: monitors and improves, like, alerts, and also, like, efficiently manages all these things, and actions can be taken as well. So for example, this is the best application actually for IoT, because patients have to be monitored. Their blood levels must be monitored, the blood pressure has to be monitored, or their heart pulse, everything has to be monitored when people are in the ICU. The amount of medical personnel which is available and the amount of patients which are available, I mean, which are coming in, is huge. Like about 8,000 to 10,000 doctors, there's like 80,000 to 1 lakh patients. And all these people cannot actually monitor every single person. There will be a shortage of nurses, medical personnel, and everything. The COVID pandemic is a perfect example of how we need IoT desperately in healthcare, because these can help monitor patients. And then, like, for example, if there are 10 patients, one of them is serious, instead people will attend one by one. So you just have to attend the patient who is serious first. So IoT can help in that. That person's pulse rate is very high, this person's blood pressure is really high, this person's oxygen content is very low. So you can monitor all these things using sensors and then make efficient decisions. So you give the right kind of treatment. So even with the less resources we have, we can use IoT in that and make the whole process efficient. And there's a lot of other sensors as well. You can monitor the person's recovery as well. Once any kind of medicine is given, you can monitor the person's recovery, and you can control diseases by having more clean and efficient environments, and using IoT devices to make sure all these environments stay clean. And medicines as well, like, people need to know what kind of medicines they have to take and when they have to take. And yeah, that most people actually don't know when they have to take it. Like, for example, let's just say somebody has a fever, only then they have to take like, what's the thing called, crocin. Yeah. So if they take crocin when there is no fever, that's useless. So you can monitor the temperature, and once the temperature reaches beyond a place, you can give them like a warning, say like, please take your crocin right now. Or if they have increased pressure, they might not know it sometimes. So you say that, okay, the pressure is too much, so you take some pressure anti-pressure tablets. And almost, if the COVID pandemic, everybody knows about these oximeters, which were used to like measure the oxygen levels in blood. In future, when we have pandemics or any kind of situation like that, we are using a lot of medical devices, and the data from medical devices has to reach the IoT cloud to be properly monitored, because the amount of doctors is very less. So when they're monitored using the cloud or anything, you can actually like find out like which people have what problems, or if their medical signals or vitals are stable or not. And it it produces fewer mistakes, and the amount of expenses required to maintain healthcare becomes very low, because doctors and patients or doctors and nurses or attenders have to be paid a lot of money because that field is expensive. When you're using devices and IoT, you don't have to pay that much, because when you're bulk producing, mass producing all these devices, they become incredibly cheap. So what about the future of IoT? And the future itself is endless for IoT compared to other fields. Artificial intelligence and IoT and everything is the future. Maybe in about 40 years or 20 years, everything will be in these fields. It's a very rewarding time to like actually pick a career in IoT, artificial intelligence, and everything, because right now, from this perspective and this situation itself, this is endless. The possibilities are endless, and this is a career for anybody. A person who is passionate about starting a new company, a person who is passionate about changing the entire world, even, or somebody who wants to have a rewarding career and knowing that they're doing something to contribute to society and betterment of humankind. So far, whatever the applications are the kind of main applications which I've said in the IoT, but there is a lot more research being going on. And recently in India, they've launched the Smart City project, which is already happening in a large scale in America and Japan and all those bigger countries. And that includes China as well. Almost IoT will be there in every part of our lives in the next 20 years. And if you're really looking towards a career in IoT, this would be a right time. And the basic requirements of IoT actually varies. When you are looking for a career or in IoT or something like that, you need to know a little bit of programming, a little bit of electronics, a little bit of networking, and a little bit of cloud. You don't need to know all these things entirely. You just need to know which part of that is required for IoT, because cloud itself is used in everything. IoT is just one of them. So when you're studying these, you need to know only basics of programming. IoT doesn't require such advanced programming. And electronics as well, you need to know only the basics of electronics. You don't need to know in a very advanced level. And networking and cloud as well. So IoT is like a little bit of this and a little bit of that on everything. It's not something which is an in-depth in something else. So it's like 4 or 5 fields coming together and making something really amazing. If you are really a fan of all these, technology, futuristic, making all these science fiction movies coming through, this would be a really perfect field for you. The amount of entrepreneurship opportunities in IoT itself is also a lot, because a lot of people are outsourcing. Because when it comes to a smart city project or something, smart city is entirely IoT based, and it requires so many things, from monitoring traffic to this, that, and everything. And a single person cannot do that. So usually people outsource it to multiple companies. So if you want to start your own company in IoT as well, there's a lot of scope for that. Yeah. So with that, we come to a conclusion of this session. So if anybody is interested in IoT and they require guidance, and yeah, if you want to learn more about IoT itself, you can contact me at any time. I'll share my LinkedIn page. And if you have any questions about IoT enabled devices, IoT and the programming, whatever you require, or anything like that, you can even type it in the message and I'll answer your questions. Okay, so I'll talk about a little bit about. Oh yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about career opportunities then. Yeah, most of the to become an IoT professional, the basic thing you need is an engineering degree, and it doesn't matter if you're coming from a IT background or if you are taking engineering as IT or CSE or electronics or any kind of thing, you can apply for IoT, because IoT is like, a combination of all four fields, and it doesn't actually relate to just one field. And because of that, engineers are actually job post, yeah, IoT engineers. So the basic thing is you can become an IoT architect, IoT engineer, and IoT cloud architect as well. So what IoT engineers do is they work at a ground level, implementing all the tasks using sensors, programming languages, and everything like that. And IoT engineers, they can be like, hardware engineers or software engineers as well. Some people specialize in hardware, where they have to create custom hardware or, modify this hardware to use it. And some people can use, they become software engineers because they specialize in writing code for IoT and they're experts in networking. So in that case, IoT programmers are there, IoT engineers are there, and IoT architects are kind of important because they design the entire that is a very rewarding job and a very high paying job. And you need some few years of experience in implementing some IoT projects before you can become an IoT architect, because experience is key here. With four fields coming together, you need to be like, knowing all those four fields in a very good way to implement and create your own IoT architecture. So for each and every solution, it's different. If your IoT is there in almost every field, and to implement and create a solution for each of these things requires some kind of experience in that field. You need to work at least 3-4 years in IoT, or at least complete a lot of projects. If you're working, if you're really fast at working, I've seen people become IoT architects even in 2 years. So you need to understand how this thing works and how everything IoT in the IoT ecosystem is done. And with that, you can become an IoT architect. And that is like one of the best jobs to be doing in IoT itself. It's creative, it has a lot of scope. And in the next 15 years, IoT architects will be like some of the most wanted, because almost everything is converting into digital. And these people are required to design how these things are being converted into digital, how to create this ecosystem to work together, how to implement all these things using programmers, engineers, and solution architects. Yeah, you don't require any kind of course, any kind of online certification or anything like that would do. And more than a course or something like that, a project would talk much more. If you can actually make small IoT projects, it's not that expensive. You can purchase an IoT kit for at least 2,000 rupees or even less on Amazon or any kind of thing, and you can practice that using just your laptop and few IoT sensors or anything like that. And if you can implement that, I think an IoT project would on average would take about 3 days. Something very simple to show that you can do these things. And once you've done that, yeah, exactly, Arduino. You can use Arduino to show all these things. And once you've done all these things, you getting a job in that industry becomes easier. Instead of getting showing, these days certifications do not have that much value. You can't go and show a certificate and then like people will give you a job or something, because pretty much everybody has a certificate. If you can show that IoT, you can do IoT projects and everything like that, you can easily get a job. Because the person in the business industry who's giving you the IoT job knows only the surface. If you show him a certification or something, he wouldn't understand. If you can show him a working project live with your laptop and your devices, he will trust you more, because you actually have shown that you can do all these things. And apart from other fields, it's kind of easier to showcase IoT, because you need an IoT kit, a laptop, and pretty much all students these days have a laptop. So you have to spend about 3,000 rupees maximum apart from your laptop, and you can show that you can do IoT. But if you say a software engineer or any other project or any kind of thing, they have to work for months before they can actually show that they have done something nice. Here you have to be more of a solution oriented person. You can finish an IoT project in a week, 3 days to a week or something like that. But you have to make sure that this is useful. So if you make something too simple, it will be bad. Or if you make something too complex and it's not any use or anything, again, it will be bad. So it has to be something, as far as an IoT project is concerned, you have to address a solution, even if it's very, very simple or anything like that. The solution is more important. A beginner IoT project would be like, a beginner IoT project would be like, for example, monitoring water levels or moisture levels in soil. Those kind of stuff would be like good for beginners. And turning on lights based on ambient light. For that, you need one sensor which senses light and the other LED bulb which produces light. So when it senses light, basing on the light itself, you can change the other bulb to glow. For example, if the light is too much, the bulb doesn't glow, and if the light is too less, the bulb starts to glow. Yeah. So the practical use of computer engineers in IoT is like that. Computer engineers come with a lot of knowledge which work at a chip level. For example, C language and all the like, for example, like, how do you know? They know all the chips have used C language. So CSC or IIT people, C language is a must. Yeah. So when you know that, you can design custom systems, custom libraries, and everything like that. So IoT engineers are required for that. When a large company is requiring to have a custom solution made for that, they need people with a detailed understanding of embedded systems and C language. And these things are quite simple in the way they work. The way you present them is what matters here, because like I told you, like among all the projects, IoT projects take the least time to implement. So they have to be solution oriented, and you have to convince the person that this is useful or this method is like good. And beginner IoT projects is really good to showcase and get you that job in IoT. And from that, you can start, building your career based on which direction you want to go from there. And it can be anything. There is even government jobs in IoT. I've come across some government jobs in IoT as well. For the list of companies recruiting in IoT, you could use LinkedIn for that, because I've come across a lot of HR people in my list who are looking for IoT engineers. LinkedIn is a wide resource for you to find a job, because you can connect with people who are in the recruit. If you can just search for IoT engineers, IoT HR people who are hiring in that field, you can actually type in HR space IoT, and you will find a lot of people hiring engineers. You could directly apply to the company as well. Companies have this recruitment section, contact us website, work with us website, or something like that. You can directly apply there. Most the companies which are hiring, I don't know the exact names actually. The median salary of a IoT engineer would be around 23 to 25 starting. But it depends on the company which they get selected as well. I've seen people getting starting packages of 35 as well, 35K as well. So you can actually negotiate a higher salary if you have a lot of skills. If you can show like a really advanced project which is well designed or something like that, then you can demand a much higher salary. Because as a fresher, people are very skeptical of hiring freshers, because I do a lot of recruiting work, and when new people come in or something like that, I don't really I'm not really comfortable giving a lot of money to a person who's just coming in. So if that person is coming in with a lot of experience and a lot of things to show, then I might consider giving him a lot more money, because he would have experience already doing that, and he would be more efficient at doing that, and I don't have to spend that much money to train him as well. So if you are studying in college or anything like that, then you have to practice this and make a really impressive IoT project. if you have the skills in IoT, you should definitely take this field, because yeah, if, like, how do you say, as far as scope and jobs is concerned, yeah, it is very efficient, but like, sometimes it might not be the field for you. Like, you might not like it, or you might not be able to do it. In that case, you shouldn't take this field, because it requires you to have knowledge in 4 different fields minimum. And if you can handle that, and if you can understand programming, electronics, and cloud systems, and networking, if you can understand all these 4 concepts, then this field is a definite go-to. You can go there confidently, you will definitely make money. But if you don't understand all these things and you go inside there, you will be suffering, because you won't understand how this thing works, and you will be like slow and inefficient. And so, just if you want to explore this field, the first thing you do is, like, the 4 things I've told you, just, like, read them on the internet, watch YouTube videos, take some books and read on that, and see if you understand all those things. If you understand those concepts, you can confidently go inside. And if you don't, please avoid this field, because you need to know all these 4 for, like, going inside the field. Thank you, Dr. Sara. Thank you for your comments. So does anybody have any questions? So yeah, some people might not be having questions, like, comfortable asking questions in the public like that. So I'll give you my LinkedIn, and in case, like, you want to, like, ask me any questions, or you want to contact me regarding any kind of advice on any kind of fields, then you can send me a message in LinkedIn, or connect with me in LinkedIn, and I'll be really happy to help. Yeah, Internet of Things is a really rewarding field to be in at this point. If you start now, you can grow in the next 15-20 years, and it'll be ever expanding. The applications which I've told you are just like the starting. Like, it right now, IoT is like a baby now. And a lot of people, there's one point which I might want to, like, discuss a little bit more, is like Industrial Revolution 4. When the last revolution occurred, the factories mass produced everything. And Industrial Revolution 4 is spearheaded by Internet of Things, because everything is going to be automated, everything is going to be connected, and everything is going to be digital. So there is endless possibilities in IoT for startups, for this, for that, every industry. So there is no questioning the scope of this field at all. The only question is, can you do it? Are you, like, qualified to do it? If you are qualified to do it, definitely do it, 100%. Yeah, and the Industrial Revolution is, like, happening in 2030, by the way. The Industrial Revolution 4.0 will take full form in 2030, which is like about 8 years from now, roughly, I think. Yeah. So by that time, everything would have been changed into totally something else. And if you are like an early adopter, there is this people called, like, early adopters. When you adopt a technology which is going to become really big, and that means that when the technology becomes really big, you become big as well. Like, for example, let's just say you become an IoT solutions architect, and the field grows leaps and bounds. You, as a person having this kind of early access to the technology and early, like, adopter of the technology, have more knowledge. So your demand in the industry will grow. And because of that, you will be more wanted, and you can naturally you can make more money as well. And you will also have a rewarding career in terms of, and play a part in, like, advancing humanity as well. Like, solutions to, like, these are the need of our right now. The pandemic showed everybody how hard it is to manage something when something big like this happens. Yeah. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay, so if you people have any more questions or something, you can contact me on my LinkedIn. I'll be really happy to help, and I can also guide you on your career and options and everything like that. Yeah, and I think I'll close the session right now. Thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for, like, being here for the seminar and everything. And I wish you all good luck in your career and life. Thank you.